Okay, everyone, this is the Marketing Perspective podcast where we get the latest marketers, the latest experts in the industry, and we just talk about different various perspectives on why they do things. And today we have Tommy Patterson on, and he is a awesome person in this space. Me and him have been vibing for a long time now. He's awesome, and he definitely has a different perspective on the leadership side and the mindset that it takes to actually succeed. And it's going to be a very interesting perspective on how he does things. So he's going to give us a little intro about who he is, what he does, and things like that. And then we'll dive right into the conversation to really why Amazon businesses need to focus on DTC stores. Tommy, thank you for coming on. Wait, are you talking, Tommy? One second. I can't hear. It says you're talking, but I can't hear you. It's so weird. One second. Change your mic out or something. I can't hear you. That's so weird. Is he talking? There we go. Now I hear you. Now you hear me, but now you don't see me. Yes, that is true.
All right, hold on real quick. Fix this real quick.
Oh, by the way, Fort, I don't have an RTPM destination.
All right, how about now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you see me?
I can see you. Yes, perfect.
Technical difficulties, everybody. This is our first time doing this show.
Well, not for me. For this particular.
I love it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, you want me to dive into the intro?
Yeah. Give us an intro about everything. Tommy's he's a great personality. So yes, to give him your spiel.
All right, cool. I am Tommy Patterson. I am the founder and CEO of Weekend Digital. We are a creative growth agency based here in Sacramento, California. I'm also co-founder and partner in Weekend Investments, which is an investment firm that actually buys and acquires brands, Amazon brands, e-commerce brands, and gets them ready to sell on the marketplace within a very specific time frame. Mm-hmm. I've been in digital marketing since 2013, specifically e-commerce. I've built multiple 7- and 8-figure brands. We have 9 internal brands right now in our agency that we actually own. We've done just over $70 million in the last 24 months in those brands. And yeah, I love all things advertising. I love marketing. I love Victor, and I love you guys. It's very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, when it comes to paid advertising in general, like talk about the pros and cons of like the advertising on Amazon and the advertising on D2C stores, because as we know, we can't optimize for conversions on Amazon because we don't have that pixel, but we can optimize on the D2C stores. Can you kind of describe the differences between sending traffic to both places?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right, like Amazon is very similar to Google, where it's intent based, right? And you know, we're trying to get our products in front of specific eyeballs that are actually searching for that product. And Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, that's disruptive advertising, right? Like that's where we're interrupting someone's pattern, and we're presenting them with our offer or our brand or our message or whatever it is that we're trying to do online. And both can be done very well and should be done together if you're looking to achieve rapid growth and scale in your business. And what I would say is the biggest difference is that specifically with Facebook and TikTok, that is where you can get very granular in the people that you are actually targeting, right? We can target specific customer personas. We can target specific interests. If you're in a sock brand, you can target people with feet. I'm just kidding. You can target people who like shoes.
Dang it.
Right. And you can get very specific in the avatar that you're looking to communicate with and target to. If you have an apparel brand, right, like, or an activewear brand like we do, I know that my target customer is a woman who's between 25 and 45 years old, who has average income of $100,000 a year, who likes specific magazines, who follows specific influencers, who very much has a persona or an avatar that likes and buys specific types of products, right? And so benefit to be able to advertise that way is the ability to go after the exact person that you're looking to go after, right? To target that individual and to hopefully create the opportunity for them to engage and become a customer at a certain point.
Yeah. And targeting, you hit that's really the bulk of it too, when you're able to have that email list and then create lookalikes on it from Facebook and things like that to take your targeting to a whole new level. Because if someone goes and purchases on Amazon, you don't necessarily get that list to really find out. They do give you those demographic data, but they won't. You
don't own your customer.
Yeah, you really don't. They at the end of the day, they own it.
Yes, absolutely. And listen, Amazon absolutely is an incredible vehicle for growth. There's brands doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year on Amazon. The challenge is, though, as we all know, is that we don't own our customers. We don't own the platform, and we're at the mercy of whatever Amazon wants to do. And unfortunately, Amazon has more money than God. So they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. And, I personally have had friends where they've come in and like completely taken over a marketplace because they have the economies of scale and the money to do so. And so when you think about that platform and having traction there, absolutely 100% important component to being successful. But if we're thinking about the big picture, the North Star goal, and what it is that we're trying to do with our business and what is it that we're optimizing for, at the end of the day, we want to own our customers. We want to be able to communicate with our customers whenever, however we feel like, and to add additional value to their life to hopefully get them to buy from us multiple times at our discretion, not the Amazon platform discretion.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. How would you navigate? So as you probably know, when we send, like, if you send the traffic to Amazon, you get that higher conversion rate naturally, just because it's the on-platform things, and you get that trust factor, the Amazon Prime convenience. How do you compete against that and make it such a good offer to send it to, like, rather than putting it, because there's a lot of things the customer has to do. They have to trust you with their credit card. They have to put in your product information, assuming that they're not going to spam you. Like, how do you go about that to really getting that consumer trust and to get them to convert on your direct to consumer site?
So I don't think that you have to combat that. I actually think that they're two different approaches. And look, here's what you have to understand about marketing dollars, right? When we're advertising, when we're paying, we're making an investment to get eyeballs on our product to hopefully convert to produce profit in our business over time. And so the way to really look at it is, we also know that in paid advertising that there's two types of customers, right? There's high value, high impact brand shoppers who buy brands, and they're only going to the brand to make those purchases. And then there's everybody else. There's my wife, who goes to Amazon, who goes to Target, who goes to Bed Bath & Beyond, and they're going to go to the platform that makes the most sense for them. But the real way to look at it is like, look, if I'm spending advertising dollars on my direct-to-consumer store, I can directly see the correlation to the growth of my Amazon store. It's called the halo effect, right? And so what we need to do when we're trying to build our direct-to-consumer side of our Amazon business, or when we're focusing on building that brand outside of Amazon, we need to look at those things almost as the same, because each will eventually feed each other, right? And so on the direct-to-consumer side, what you do is you do offers that you don't do on Amazon, right? You do things that get your customers to engage and to take the specific action that you're looking for them to take in a different way that they couldn't get on Amazon. And so now you're building a different customer base, and you're now have the ability to speak to them over and over again, to build relationship with them, to drive future profits for your business. And they all feed each other at scale.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Well, we had a client that was spending probably like $500,000 on their Facebook ads directly to their consumer site every month. And all of a sudden, they would turn off certain campaigns, and it was like 20% of our Amazon sales
Drop.
were coming from that. Were coming from that Facebook ad of people going through their Facebook feed and then saying, "Oh, I like that product. Go to Amazon, search it, and buy it." And we were like, wow. And so when you say that halo effect, that flywheel effect, that really is real when it comes to people are going to find it on their native platforms. And even though, like, regardless, you want to send them to your direct consumer to own that customer, but like, that's amazing to see that the really getting those eyeballs are really going to change the game on really increasing your sales at the end of the day. That's just how it goes.
100%. And listen, it actually benefits you from brand building and brand equity standpoint, because here's the thing: does it really matter that you spend, $20,000 a month on ads on Facebook, but your direct-to-consumer store is growing at a snail's pace, but you can directly attribute additional growth to your Amazon store, right? Because what happens is, as you know, I show a product to somebody, they don't know what it is. They go to Amazon, they go to the reviews, they read the reviews, they buy on Amazon, and you're an expert at this. There's ways to track that. There's ways to understand the impact that we're making on a different platform. Whether or not we're driving them to our direct-to-consumer store or our Amazon store, there's ways for us to track that impact. And so this is why I believe that we, if you're serious about building a large company and scaling a large company, and then also more importantly, positioning yourself to get the highest multiple possible when you exit your brand, you have to make direct-to-consumer advertising or direct-to-consumer e-commerce play a part of your model, because we don't want to be all lumped in one area doing one thing and at the mercy of a master that can do whatever they want whenever they want, right? So we have to, and just like in your 401k and just like in your investment portfolio, the best investors in the world are strategic about diversifying their assets and their patterns of growth. And that's what you also want to do if you have an Amazon store, and that's why you want to have direct-to-consumer component to your business.
100%. So far we talked about really just making sure you have a store. How would a person really focus on scaling the store that they currently have? So like, let's say that they're on Shopify right now and they really just want the next like solution. Like they need that like they've gotten so many sales, they want that enterprise level solution. What platforms would you recommend that are really good selection of tools to really go away from Shopify? And another tool, is there like, hey Victor, it's this one, or is it like these top three? Like, what would you recommend when choosing these, like the next high level of like website platform that are really good in this space?
Honestly, I would stay with Shopify or custom.
Really?
Yeah,
Shopify or what?
Or building a custom store, like literally like a fully coded custom store. Yeah. And here's the reason why. And that's a very difficult question to answer, because you can't answer that question without first understanding what the goal is for the business and where the business is going.
Yep.
And it also, that question is really dependent on, well, what kind of revenues are we doing too, right? Like, if you're doing $200 million a year, it makes a lot of sense for you to have a custom store so you can eliminate as much click debt and friction in that customer journey, in that checkout process, right? And also just from a fees perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be on Shopify, like from that regard also. So, I would say that that's challenging to answer in the sense that I'd really need to understand like where they're at in their business and what it is that they're actually optimizing for. Yeah. But look, predominantly we work with Shopify. I love Shopify. I don't see that there's any challenge with it, especially if you're in that $1 million to kind of $50 million range. It's a great platform to use. And here's the other thing that you have to ask yourself. It's not just the platform, it's the ability and the user ability to make changes quickly. Because in the name of entrepreneurship and in the game of business, it's all about speed to result.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so if you have a platform that you need to hire some dude or have this team to make one simple change that takes a week, not exactly efficient for a rapidly growing and scaling business.
Yeah.
You know, we want to be on platforms where the level of skill threshold is realistic for where the business is at, and your ability to execute quickly.
I always say the faster you change for what your competitors are doing, the faster you will get sales. Because on Amazon, it's so dynamic and ever changing.
Yep.
And a lot of people use this because we change faster than our competition since we're going at a whole other level speed. And it's almost the same way. If you are going through this long, tedious process, which is why I was surprised you brought up the custom code, because when I think of when people have a custom website, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, making it like a simple change from a developer is going to cost like a lot of money for them. And it takes time to do.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. So that's why I was really surprised you said a custom built site. So that even though they're above 50 million, you gave them that 1 to 50 million for Shopify.
Yeah.
So 50 million plus, what would you?
I mean, look, and this is, and I also want to just be super clear. This is what I've seen to be true for me in my business and the businesses that I've operated with. Right.
Yeah.
I definitely don't pretend to know everything. I just pretend to know a lot. And so, from what I've seen, everything comes down to speed to result. Every activity that we do in our business. And if we think about our business, right, like there's only like 1, 2, 3 things you can do in the course of a day that are going to make the biggest impact in your business. Mm-hmm. And so if we're depending on the North Star, right, because some businesses operate for profit and slow and steady, the tortoise is the way they want to, right? Some businesses are operating off of revenues and they want hockey stick growth and they want to move quickly. And, it's all about understanding what makes the most sense for the long-term result that we're optimizing for. So that's how I would kind of answer that question. Look, we've used Shopify, we use BigCommerce, we've used other platforms. Shopify to this point is the one that I think has the best and easiest use for most people at any stage of their business. My belief, though, is Headless is going to be taking over. Headless checkout, like it's on platform. You're going to be able to literally click on the box on the platform in Facebook, check out on Facebook, and it's going to pull your information in there. It's very similar to one-click checkout with Amazon, but it's going to be headless on platforms. And there's lots of cool apps that are coming out that will accomplish that. One of them we're actually talking to and potentially going to be working with, and I might be able to share with you at a later date.
Yeah. So can you go more into that? I like a lot of my audience is Amazon related. So can you go into like what that is? You kind of explained it with the
So imagine this, right?
Yeah.
So let's walk through the normal cycle of an ad, right? Like, so you're on Facebook, you're getting disrupted with all this nonsense in these ads. Let's say that you find something that you like, right? And also before I start this, let me just also give the audience the 4 pillars of any successful advertising campaign, no matter what you're doing anywhere, right? Like if you can have these 4 pillars in your business, you can successfully get paid media to work anytime, anywhere. Number 1 is your offer, right? It's the absolute most important component of any business. You have to have something that gets people excited, that gets them to want to engage. If you have a strong brand, you don't have to have as strong an offer, but the offer is always what will drive revenues and growth, no matter what. I don't care what brand it is, what product it is. That is the most important thing. Number 2 is your creative. Are we creating creative assets that are exciting, that are engaging, that get someone to stop the scroll within the first 3 to 10 seconds to give a shit about what it is that we're selling or how we're interrupting their daily pattern, right? Number 3 is the messaging. Is our messaging cohesive with our brand and who we are in the marketplace, how we're positioned, how we're depositioned from our competitors, and are we talking to our prospects the correct way at every stage of the funnel? Because how I have a conversation with you in the beginning of a relationship is very different than I have a conversation with you after you've purchased or after you're a customer. Right? Like I don't come up to somebody like when I'm dating them and say, hey, let's get married, right? First, you introduce your best self, right? Like you put on your best face. Then you introduce authority and credibility, user-generated content to establish that this product there is a need and a gap that we're filling in the marketplace. And then we ask for the sale, and then we communicate on an ongoing basis to generate more sales over time. And then lastly, I would arguably the second most important, or the most important thing, is the margin. Do we have enough margin within our product to profitably or at a break even acquire a customer, to get them into our ecosystem, to be able to successfully use paid advertising in the manner that it's supposed to be used to grow and rapidly scale our companies, right? And so those 4 pillars, like if you have those implemented in your advertising campaigns, you're always going to win. Now, back to the headless. This is what's going to happen. Eventually, you're not even going to have to go to Shopify. You're going to get an ad, and it's going to pop up. And what it's going to do is you'll probably still have Shopify or your website platform. And what's going to happen is you're going to click on that ad, and then it's going to immediately pop up, and it's going to have a checkout, and it's going to have the offer and the checkout. And you're going to click the button, and what's going to happen is it's going to pull all of your information that you've had stored somewhere into that ad, and you're just going to click a button. You're going to be able to check out. And that's what the future is. Because if you think about how you're storing your credit card information and how you're keeping all of these things in these different places. Well, if somebody is a previous customer to us on Shopify, I have that information stored in that website. Yeah. So the next time that I serve them an ad, I don't actually need them to click the ad, go to the landing page, add the product, go through all of those steps. All I need to do is serve them the ad, pick your size, click a button, you're out of there. And so by removing those friction, that all of those steps, that process, think about how much faster you could scale and how much easier it is for someone to make a decision. Because again, we're in the impulse buy business, right? Yep. That's what most of this business is. You don't really need it, but I need to give you a good enough reason for you to need it, for you to purchase it.
Yeah. And I thought that would have been successful with Facebook Shops and these other platforms where it's something similar to that, I think, with Facebook Shops. And first of all, how is that different than Facebook Shops? And why do you think Facebook Shops didn't take off?
It's not different. And Facebook Shops didn't take off because it sucks. They haven't put enough work into it. They haven't thought, listen, and I'm saying that this is the future, right? Yeah, we're still in this transition. But there's a couple apps out there that are working diligently to get this working correctly and efficiently. And I think that is absolutely the future. If you think about technology, right? Technology is this deflationary asset that makes everything less expensive, easier, faster, drives the result. And then we have, the exact opposite, the economy, which is inflationary and everything's getting more expensive. Yeah. And so if we're thinking about what's the fastest way to get someone to make a purchase, it's about removing all of the noise, removing all of the friction. It's offer, here's the product, click a button, buy. That's simple, right? Choose your size, choose your thing, buy. And I promise you what you're going to see over the next 3-5 years is somebody's going to perfect that. And hopefully I'm going to be a part of that. You're going to be able to rapidly scale your business a lot faster just by getting focused on removing the friction points of decision-making when you're selling a product online.
Yeah. And that makes 100% sense. And what that will have as an advantage is that it's on the native platform that the user is already on.
Yes.
So for example, you have to go to Amazon and leave Amazon and then buy and everything else. But Facebook, all these social media platforms have the advantage because they never actually have to leave the platform. There are billions of people, billions with a B, on all these different platforms, every single day. And having that native within the platform itself, that is the advantage of people being there. And then that will be the future, since people are already there. That would be the future of e-commerce in general. I totally see that.
I love it, man. I love it.
And what particular platforms are you looking at right now to really drive the traffic to DTC? I know it's different for every business, but are you having, for example, is there a Pinterest or a Snapchat these platforms that aren't really talked about, because everyone kind of talks about Facebook, Instagram, a little bit of TikTok, and then also Google ads. But is there anything in particular that's like, just like, oh my gosh, Victor, this is killing it right now, or anything
We're
else?
having a lot of success with TikTok ads right now.
That's amazing.
There's still not a lot of top of funnel scale there. Like, so we're not able to spend a tremendous amount of money yet. However, I do believe that changes with the right offer in place. But yeah, I mean, look, the landscape has changed. The marketplace is different. Privacy challenges are here, right? There's all kinds of issues, and those are going to continue. But how do you control a stimulus that you have no control over? Well, you can't. It's all about how you respond to it. And again, when I think about advertising, if you have those 4 things, your offer, I mean, I'm telling you, everybody, like, if you just took 2 hours of your month, every single month, and focused on offer iteration, what is my offer? How can I make it better? How can I add more value? How can I increase profit? How can I increase margin? How can I bundle? That could change your business just by spending 2 to 10 hours a month on that one activity.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, when you say offer, when I think of offer, I only think of promo codes. It's probably because I'm from Amazon. But when you say offer, you mean like, can you? What do you mean
absolutely.
by offer?
So look, an offer is your value proposition in the market, right? Yeah. So if you're a full price brand, right, like, you obviously can command full price because you've established a brand and a reputation in the market that commands that value, right? That makes sense for someone to pay that. So how would you have an offer on a full price brand? Well, let's dive into that. Well, typically the way that you would do that would be through some sort of bundling, or through some sort of ascension ladder or discount ladder, or free shipping over a certain amount, right? What is the hook, right? Because when we're communicating to our customers, most people don't need what it is that you have until you make them realize that they need what it is that you have.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And the best way to do that is through your offer. And your offer, whether it be a full price, or if you're a discount brand, or if you're doing, there's a million different ways to do that. BOGO, buy one, get 2 free, right? Like free shipping, whatever it is. It's about thinking about, how can I, this is what I would suggest too. If you have something that's working, that's been working, you don't mess with that. But what you do is you go to your email list, or you go, if you're on your direct to consumer site for your Amazon store, this is the place where you're like, okay, well, I have this one profit center that is working and it's generating revenues and I'm making money, right? How can I take my direct to consumer store, my Shopify store that I need to build, where I can own my customers and get a different type of customer? You know, what we do is, with a lot of Amazon brands that we work with, is they already have an established process and offer there. And what we say is, okay, well, how do we build our direct to consumer store? Well, let's give a better deal, or let's give a bundle, or let's give something that you can't get on Amazon on our store, to make it so enticing that if they do go to Amazon, they're either going to buy, or they're going to say, oh, I got a better deal over here. They'll come back to the store, where we can capture that prospect, own that information, and now build an ecosystem of customers that we can communicate to over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And how do you go about when communicating to the customer and like constantly getting in their face to build up that brand, whether it's through top of funnel or if an existing customer, how do you bring in that non-salesy like content? Like, I know it's different for every business too, but like that non-salesy version of it, but like fun enough for them to engage with, to constantly communicate with the brand, but that balance of not being too salesy with it. How do you go about that?
Well, so there's 100 million different ways you can go about that. But what I will say is, first you have to understand what it is and who you are in the marketplace and what it is that you're doing. And look, every year that goes by, the attention span gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yep.
And so what you have to realize about your brand is that, well, what are the activities that I can do to engage with somebody within 10 seconds to get them to give a shit about my company? Yeah. And so you have to think differently. If you do the same thing that everyone else does, you're going to get the same result that everyone gets, right? Like, that's just how it is. And entrepreneurship is about taking risk, calculated risk, And it's about innovating and thinking differently and carving your own path and going a different direction.
Yep.
And so what I would say is, if you're selling a t-shirt or if you're selling a foot massager or whatever it is, well, who am I in the marketplace? Who are my competitors? What are my competitors doing? How can I be different from my competitors? And how can I take my value proposition and make it make sense to somebody within 10 seconds?
Mm-hmm. And how do you usually condense that and communicate that to the customer? Usually, is it through a video? Is it like, I guess you can do it through both, honestly. But
it's all about the hook. It's all about the hook, right?
Okay.
Like, what's the hook? Like, how am I going to engage you in 3 seconds? Like, I need to do something to grab your attention. Once you have their attention, then you back it up with the value. Like, hey, this is who we are, right? This is why you need this, right? Yeah. And here's all the people that back me up and tell you why you need this. And here's the reason why you should buy this, right? And you can do that very, very quickly, because if you just go and you look at your current sales process and you look at all the steps that people have to go to, it's just getting very focused on, how do I take that and make it 10 seconds? How do I take that and make it 30 seconds? How could I go out into the marketplace and with a hook, with like a grab your attention, get somebody to pay attention, and then lead them to the sale? And it's actually not that difficult. What I see a lot of times with business owners and entrepreneurs is like, we massively overcomplicate things. Yeah. And because we have fear of the unknown, we don't do the necessary activities to drive the result that we're optimizing for, because we're scared of just trying it. And here's the thing. Nobody's going to fucking remember what you did yesterday, 3 days ago, a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. Your customers are not thinking about you that way, right? So we need to remove our own personal biases and stop projecting what we think is going to happen, and actually start testing and using data to make better decisions as to how to grow our businesses.
100%. And it's funny when we do like user generated content, and like, it's funny because user generated content, like, it's always the worst one that ends up performing the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they're like, Victor, I do not want this to go live on Facebook ads. And I'm like, just let me test it. Please, just let me test it. And they go, no. And then I go, just let me test it. And eventually they said yes. And then I showed them the results and they go, okay, Victor, you might know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, I've done this once or twice before. But yeah, that's exactly how it is.
It is, man. And and I've experienced this in my own businesses. It's always the product that I think is going to flop is the one that wins. You know what I mean? And it's like, you just can't take your current state and your own beliefs and project them on an outcome until you actually do it. Right. I talk about this a lot when I'm speaking on a stage is failing forward. You have to be willing to fail in order to succeed. Failure is the precursor to success, right? And in your business, it's the same. Like, if you don't try different activities within your business, there's no possible way for you to grow your business, because otherwise you're just doing the same shit. You're never going to get the result. And so, I think as entrepreneurs and as store owners, direct-to-consumer brand owners, we need to be more risky in the way that we approach selling our products. And it doesn't mean that you have to be salesy. It doesn't mean that you got to do, some crazy deal. But what you need to do is you need to think differently than everybody else, because if you don't do that, you're just going to get the same result, and it's going to be harder for you to grow your business over time.
Yeah, that's great. And on the direct to consumer side, so what would you recommend to anyone that has an Amazon store right now and is either doesn't have a website or doesn't focus, and they at least have the website set up and they're not really doing anything with it? What would you say to those people, like saying, hey, you have to send external traffic? Like, what would you say to those people that haven't really been prioritizing it lately?
I think that they need to wake up, and I think that they need to get serious about the other side of their business. Look, this, we're in the same mastermind. Everybody who's in Amazon wants to be an e-com, and everybody who's in e-com wants to be in Amazon. Sure. Right. But the most successful businesses in our mastermind are the ones that are doing both at a super high level. Right. Yeah. And what it also too is like, I want you to think about the biggest brands in the world. Coca-Cola spends $1 billion a year on advertising just to be top of mind. Think about the largest direct to consumer e-commerce brands. They're on every platform. They're on every site. They're doing every activity possible because it's about eyeballs. It's about getting awareness. It's about driving growth through, prospecting. And so it's foolish for us to think that this one channel is going to last forever, because nothing lasts forever. And so, what we need to be really serious on, and I actually just spoke about this, is, we need to first identify our North Star goal for our business. Because what's crazy, Victor, is that, most people can tell you more about their favorite sports team than they can tell you about what they want for their business in the next 12 months. and that's a real stat. That's a real thing. And, and when we start these businesses, we get into these things and we think about, okay, well, I'm just going to start this business, and then your business grows and it's growing, and it's like, but we're not ever thinking about the end result that we're optimizing for. And I don't know about you, but for me, at this stage in my career, it's about building generational wealth. And everything that I do has a 1 to 3 year timeline with an exit strategy. Because if you don't have a roadmap, if you're aiming at nothing, you're going to hit it every single time. And in our businesses, it's not just about revenue growth. It's about how do we grow the asset in the business side, but how are we growing individually, personally in our lives? And what is it that we actually want for ourselves? And people don't take those two things and put them together and figure that out. And I would suggest that it would be a really, really powerful practice for people to implement immediately.
Yeah, 100%. And when it comes down to it, so how like everything on the iOS 14 update and everything else, that really did a huge impact to direct consumer stores. What would you say, either how would you navigate? Because like basically a lot of people the people that did prioritize their DTC stores saw a huge cut in the iOS 14 update that damaged the way. And then they said, okay, like Victor, I need to pivot to Amazon because of it. What would you say that, like, how would you go about it to reestablish that success on all these platforms after the iOS 14 update?
Well, here's what I would say is, like, look, I experienced that in my own companies and we're doing fine. It's all about how you're operating your business. And again, this also comes down to a margin conversation, right? To play the game at a high level, it's not about spending the least and getting the most. It's about spending the most so you win everything, right? It's about being able to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace. And the brands that can do that are the brands that have adequate margin to profitably, or at a break even, or even a slight loss, acquire more customers than you. If you and I sell the same fidget and it costs you $1 and you sell it for $2, but it costs me $1, but I sell it for 10, who has the greater ability to scale and make an impact as far as customer acquisition? Well, I do, because you can only spend 50 cents to acquire a customer, and I can spend $9 to acquire a customer. Does this make sense? And so if I can acquire more customers, and then I can build an ecosystem to where I can talk to those customers and communicate with them on a regular basis over and over and over, the next sale is all profit. And the next sale is all profit. And the upsell is all profit, right?
Yeah.
And so when we think about the game that we're playing, we have to first understand the level that we're trying to play it at, and the roadmap that we need to take to get there. And margin is like, honestly, the death of all businesses. Like, it's harder. It costs $30,000 for a container right now for me to get something from China. It's ridiculous. Crazy. The margins are getting eaten away. Inflation is taking a big impact on our money. But look, those are all variables that we can't control, right? Sure. But what we can control is increasing our lifetime value, is communicating with our customers more, is getting a higher AOV, bigger bundles, finding new products that have better margins so I can successfully acquire a customer at a break even, right? So that's how you have to be looking at the new world and how you have to be playing the game. And again, I'll tie that back even to the offer. This is why the offer is so important, because listen, Facebook has bullshit every single year that is happening on that platform. Every year there's a major meltdown there. Would you not agree? Right? But the guys who consistently win over and over and over have a no-brainer offer with enough margin to spend their brains out, and they win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes a perfect sense. And when it comes down to it, do you ever focus on attribution when it comes to seeing the profitability of your ads? Because it's very difficult to it's been more and more difficult to actually see that attribution. Like, I got this from Facebook, this from YouTube, like whatever it may be. When you are spending your brains out, like, how do you tell the profitability from each channel? Are you having any success there to see that?
100%. We
Uh-huh.
are operating off of a daily P&L in our business. So,
Okay.
I'm old school. I
Yeah.
actually don't really care about the CPA or the ROAS on the site. I care about the underlying metrics that allow me to make the good decisions. Is my cost per click in line? Is my conversion rate online? Like my click through rate? What is my cost of my ad to cart? I look at those metrics, right? And then what I do is we make decisions based off of site wide. So if I'm spending $5,000 a day on Facebook and I'm getting $12,000 a day in sales, I just back out my ad spend, back out my 30% for cost of goods, back out my 10 to 12% for overhead, and I'm making 10 to 12% in profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at it a little bit differently. Attribution has always been messed up. Now it's just more messed up than ever, right? And so what the way that you really need to be looking at your advertising budgets is it is the cumulative aggregate of those budgets over all platforms, and does that spend equate to profits in your business? And can we look at it on a spreadsheet, a daily P&L, and say, hey, if I'm spending here and I'm spending here and I'm spending this much here, this is what we're spending, this is what was generated, and these are the platforms that have the best metrics. That's how you know how to throttle spends and where to go and how to grow.
True. Yeah, that's great. And when it comes to like really like I've heard like when people get to a big enough Shopify store that it starts to really like slow down and like get clunky. Which is the reason why I brought up the previous enterprise tool, or previous enterprise clients. Is what would you recommend to like people that are at full scale getting tons and tons of traffic through Shopify, and all of a sudden seeing that slowdown? Do you like would you implement plugins? Would you move away from Shopify if that happens? Like, yeah.
Well, if you can afford to do it, you should always go custom. It's just most people can't afford to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's my personal belief, like, because that you can control everything, you can remove all friction, you have full, like you're fully in control of the process.
Yeah.
But there, I mean, that's a super loaded question because there's so many things, most people at certain levels of their business are not even doing just like regular check-ins. Are like, am I even using this app anymore? You know what I mean? Like, how many people do you talk to that have all these apps on their store that haven't even been used in months, and you're just paying a monthly fee? So, having a scheduled cleaning, a scheduled maintenance of apps, finances, cost cutting, that's a super powerful thing that most people don't do. And on the Shopify side, as far as it being clunky and slow, look, I think that is not always the case. And it depends on how much shit you have in the background going on. A lot of times, perfect example, we sold $15 million of in the healthcare space in 2020, and we had one product, one landing page, one checkout. Like, that's all you need to do. And so what we do though as entrepreneurs is we overcomplicate it. Oh, I need it to look so, like, I need to have this pop-up, I need to have this custom thing. And what we're actually doing is we're hurting our conversion rate. Like, we're hurting the very thing that we need to get scale, right? And so just by going through and cleaning up your site and making sure that it's heavily optimized and focusing on conversion rate optimization, you could take the same amount of ad spend, and just by increasing your conversion 1%, you just doubled your business. And most people don't even really think about that, right? And so it's a loaded question. There's a lot of different ways to answer that. But what I would say is, platform is dependent on the growth of the company and how much shit you got going on in the background. If you can go custom, if you have a team and you can afford to do that, I would always go there. But from my experience, Shopify, it serves the entire community. It's easy on entrepreneurs. It's easy to understand. It's very plug and play. As you scale, you get the team in place to make sure that those things are actually needed to drive the result.
Yeah. That's amazing. And when it comes down to the customer, is there any particular way that you're interacting with your customer that other people different, like a different philosophy? Like, are you sending them a weekly newsletter? I know that's going to be different to is there anything else you interact with your customer that other people have a different perspective of?
Well, look, I mean, I think that when you understand who you are in the marketplace and how you want to be portrayed and how you want to be perceived, those are questions you should be asking yourself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in life is about experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a great experience, you're always shopping there.
True.
Right. And we really forget that, like because we're so focused on just scale or sell. Right. But when you can position yourself in a way to give someone an incredible offer or an incredible value that actually makes an impact in their life, that they can very quickly understand the result that they're going to achieve by doing this activity, and then follow that up with a nurturing sequence of how to communicate to them after the sale, and how are we engaging with them going forward, and how do we really indoctrinate these people to be a part of our community, and have we thought about the things, how do we turn our customers into our advocates? Word of mouth marketing is the original form of sales since the beginning of time. Tell a friend. Well, how often do you tell a friend about a product? Not a lot, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why you don't is because the product usually isn't amazing, because they didn't do a good job giving you, like, creating that experience for you to talk about it afterwards. And there's not a big enough reason for you to share it with it because it hasn't made a big enough impact in their life. But if you think about that, those are all variables that we can control just by diving deep and understanding the result that we want our customers to have after they make a purchase.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I assume that we can go on to this for 5 more hours. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Yep.
Tommy, thank you so much for coming on. Please tell the audience how to find you, where to find your website, and everything else, so that way they can continue the conversation if they want to.
Yeah, 100%. So Tommy Patterson on Instagram, that's basically the only platform that I live on. You can go to Tommy Patterson _ at the end for Twitter, but I've done one tweet in 7 years, so probably wasted time. And then, yeah, exactly. And then Weekend Digital, WKNDdigital.com, or Weekend Agency, WKNDagency.com. Or if you want me to buy your company, WKND Investments, weekendinvestments.com. And you can find me there. And then, it's Tommy Patterson. I'm pretty easy. I love talking to people and adding value. I'm super stoked on it. I love what I do. And Victor, God, I fucking love you, bro. Thank you for having me on the show.
With Tommy, you can always, having a conversation with Tommy, you will always get energized after that conversation. That's like one thing, whether if it goes anywhere or not, you can at least know that you will have an energized conversation when you schedule something with Tommy. So I highly recommend it because he's just awesome. So thank you so much for coming on, Tommy. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the Marketing Perspective Podcast.